At Heckle's suggestion, we are going to check out the ape that could not be contained. Oh, Alex, damn it. Yes, it's 23 minutes, so this will take us to the industry. So this will be a good one to take us to the industry. So, let's see about the ape that could not be contained. Kind of like certain anime cat girls. Huh, chat? You can put me in a cage, but that only makes me hornier. I need stronger. Alright, let's go.
Welcome to a behind-the-scenes VIP visit to the world's most famous zoo, the San Diego Zoo.
Okay.
The San Diego Zoo, the world-famous wildlife haven bursting with vibrant life. Nestled in the Balboa Park, this sprawling 100-acre zoo is home to thousands of rare and endangered creatures from across the globe. Pulling in millions of visitors every year, each exhibit offers an up-close glimpse into the wonders of the animal kingdom. With its lush tropical landscapes and immersive habitats,
Chat, correct me if I'm wrong. Hasn't the San Diego Zoo been the scene of more than a few animal escapes? I seem to recall, didn't like lions or tigers escape from the San Diego Zoo and actually made it out into like suburbia and they had to hunt it down? Am I correct? Is that the San Diego Zoo? I vaguely remember hearing something about that. Like, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago? Maybe? I don't remember when I heard it. It was some time ago that I vaguely remember hearing. I think it was 2 tigers that escaped the San Diego Zoo and were, like, roaming through, like, the suburbs and shit. It was the workplace of Jack Hanna as well. Oh, okay. I know Jack Hanna. I know about him.
San Diego Zoo really is a full-on adventure. Well, on the 13th of February 1971, San Diego Zoo welcomed a new addition. An orangutan was born. The son of the zoo's Maggie and Bob.
Oh, okay, thank you, Robo.
Named Ken Allen, after the 2 zookeepers that would go on to care for him in his early years, Ken Willingham and Ben Allen. And this ape's time at San Diego Zoo would go on to be nothing shy of remarkable.
Okay.
So, after his birth, young Ken Allen didn't have the greatest start in life. It appeared that his mother was sadly failing to properly care for him, nearly accidentally smothering him. So, the team at San Diego Zoo felt it was best for Ken's safety to separate him from his mother and place him in his own cage. Well, as a young adolescent, Ken seemed to quickly acclimatise to his enclosure and loved the company of his zookeepers and other humans alike. A very sociable, intelligent young ape. And like all young playful apes, Ken was quite a troublemaker. But it was at nightfall when Ken would really shoot into action. One night, as the San Diego Zoo closed its doors and Ken's keepers were heading home after a long day's work, it seemed that Ken didn't particularly like the idea of being left confined to his small metal prison. Well, Ken had learnt to unscrew the bolts of his cage to free himself, and once out, he'd just roam around his nursery. So the next morning, as staff arrived, there they found Ken playing with his toys as his cage sat dismantled behind him. Assuming there'd just been some sort of structural error with the cage framework, the zookeeper simply put it back together again, and as night drew in, they led Ken back into the newly assembled cage. Well, Ken had made a note of this. So that night, as their shifts ended,
let's see. In the last 25 years, there's only been 1 breach of deadly animals. 2013, 2 striped hyenas breached their enclosure, prompting a temporary lockdown in the zoo. They were zated and safely returned without incident. Okay. Where do I remember hearing about 2 tigers escaping? I thought for sure I remember hearing a news story about that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm thinking of something else entirely.
And the zookeepers left. Once again, Ken started to unscrew the bolts of his cage and simply messed about.
Ew!
He loved the freedom, but this time was different. Ken had learned that the morning was when the zookeepers would start their shifts and return, and he wasn't going to be caught out again. So after yet another night of freedom, as the sunlight slowly crept in through the window of his nursery, this time around, Ken climbed back into his cage and started re-securing the bolts as if nothing had happened. This way, when the keepers entered the nursery that morning, there they saw Ken sat well behaved in his cage as if he'd been there the entire night. Well, Ken's master plan.
Okay, this orangutan is fucking diabolical. Holy crap! Yeah. Pattern behavior and knowing how to anticipate it. We're lucky. We are lucky so far that he just wants to just play around in his enclosure. Imagine if he had nefarious intentions. 2004 tiger escaped from the Quina La Fauna Zoo in Reynosa, Mexico. Maybe that's what I'm remembering, Durahan. Maybe it's that.
Would go on for a few nights.
Oh,
He
it's
would
nasty.
unscrew the cage, play in the nursery, return to the cage, and then reassemble it. Everything was going swimmingly. But there was one small thing that Ken didn't account for. Eventually, the zookeeper started to notice that when they'd return in the morning, whilst Ken was sat content in his cage, his toys weren't in the places that the staff had left them the night before.
Oh.
So, with a hunch, that night, the keepers said their goodbyes to Ken and they pretended to leave. But rather than heading home, they sat quietly outside of Ken's nursery and waited. And after a while, as they expected, they started to hear noises. So they abruptly burst through the door and there they saw Ken, cage dismantled, playing with his toys. So the jig was up. Ken was placed into a new, much sturdier cage, and that put a stop to his late night antics once and for all. But trust me when I say, this was merely the beginning when it came to Ken Allen. Things for San Diego Zoo.
You cannot keep a smart orangutan down, chat. This is gonna get good.
Would get far, far worse.
That time.
Oh, there we go. 7th pint of the night. Right, Mick, I'm off, mate. I'll be back at 8 AM tomorrow.
Chat, is this guy work with Internet Historian?
Who the monetized video are you? Listen, this is very important. We have to hurry. You are Dave, right? Yeah. Listen to me, Dave. I have a job for you. Oh, no, you don't, mate. I don't do jobs. I'm unemployed.
Does this person work with Internet Historian? Because it absolutely has
this thing on your
his
wrist
vibe.
allows you to time travel to any point in history. But your first mission is
Because he teamed up with Internet Historian for the alt channel.
Comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, and is now available on PC and consoles.
Because the style and the art and the
Hey, you! What are you doing?
the graphics or the visuals, this all absolutely feels like Internet Historian.
Have a spin on this.
He could just be inspired by. I wasn't sure if he was inspired by or actually worked with Internet Historian.
And ships of 10 major nations, ranging from biplanes, armored cars to fighter jets and main battle tanks of today. Well, my today, that is. You guys don't even know what a tank is yet. I think you finally do, mate. Those lot over there told us what they are.
This War Thunder game is amazing. The incredible detailed vehicles, the realistic graphics, and authentic sound effects place you right at the helm of the most powerful war machines.
Yeah, lads, sack this pyramid thing off. We're
Yeah, well, I would hope that it's accurate, considering that people keep leaking the frickin' weapon manuals to War Thunder on Reddit. Wait, when was the last time someone leaked a weapons manual to War Thunder on Reddit or anything? It must have been a couple of years ago. I think the latest one was someone tried to leak the manual for the F-35 to him. And in the Discords too? Yeah. Oh, it was the War Thunder forums, thank you. Was it last year? Yeah. Was it the F-35? I thought I heard that was the one that they tried to leak last. Was somebody, was that manual.
grinding War Thunder from now on. the first competitor, Sergius, the destroyer of men, and the second competitor, Dave, the destroyer of his
Oh
own
no,
liver.
they tried.
I'm going to turn you to mush.
I know it's more than just airplanes. They did tanks too. They did bridge tanks. I think someone might have actually done the Abrams.
PvP battle. Delve into the breathtaking experience that is War Thunder.
Oh,
With
very
an unmatched
passionate,
wealth of
Revan.
high-quality
Very
content
much
to
so.
discover. There's simply no game better suited for fans of military history. Oh, fair enough. Next up, let's welcome John, Paul, Ringo, George, and Dave.
Yeah, like, I'm pausing the ads so much. Yeah, like they when I watched Russian Badgers, they showed a tweet from them, like, please stop trying to leak us stuff. It's sort of turbo illegal to do so. We don't want any leaked classified government documents. I think one of the responses to it was, I'm gonna leak shit. They are passionate is an
What would you
understatement.
say is your favourite part of the music making process? Well, I mean, you know, it's definitely the creativity of it all for me. It's definitely the peace and love. It's got to be connecting with the fans. It's just the love of the whole thing, you know. I mean, to be completely honest, I was playing War Thunder the entire time, which features a comprehensive customization system with countless camouflages, historical markings, and decorations for all types of vehicles, including community-created ones. This is one small step for man, but one giant leap for the fact that you can play War Thunder for free on PC, PlayStation,
Well, I did
and
pause
Xbox.
it a little bit,
Use
Leo.
the link in the description or in the
I
pinned
did
comment
kinda
to
pause it.
sign up. New players or those that haven't played in 6 months will also receive a massive bonus pack on PC or console that includes multiple premium vehicles, the exclusive
Like I said, it's
vehicle
kind of
decorator,
like
the Eagle
Internet
of Valor,
History. His
100,000
ads are
silver
like
lions,
full-on
and 7 days
productions
of a
too.
premium account. All available for a limited time only, so don't miss it. Now, if you don't mind me, I'm off to have a free pint. So, back to the video. So skip forward a few years, and the zookeepers felt it was finally time for Ken to be shown off to the public. And he was placed into the heart of the zoo exhibit that had opened just 3 years prior. But when Ken first moved in, he wasted no time in turning his hand to Mischief. When a film crew turned up to document the gorilla enclosure next door, Ken decided it'd be a good idea to hurl rocks at them. And then when he ran out of rocks, he used his own shit. And keepers would also report seeing Ken
I'm sorry, but hang on.
and then when he ran out of rocks, he used his own shit.
It's an ape. This is par for the course. Is anyone surprised at an ape throwing shit at people? Hands up, anybody that is surprised by this. And if you put your hand up, I'm gonna call you a liar.
And keepers would also report seeing Ken fashioning branches into DIY ladders that he would then thump into the ground with his own fist, climb up to the top, and then climb all the way back down. Now, it's important to note that Ken wasn't alone in this enclosure.
Oh, he's
Keepers
testing.
decided that maybe it was best that he had some company this time around. So they placed him in an enclosure with a bunch of other orangutans. So there was a number of female orangutans.
Oh. I was gonna say, you fools, you just gave him his army. But let me rephrase. You fools, you just gave him a fucking harem.
Ken and one other male named Otis. Now, if you know the first thing about the animal kingdom, 2 males and a bunch of females doesn't usually end too well. To put it bluntly, Ken grew to despise Otis. I'm talking cold-blooded hatred, resulting in numerous feuds. So the zookeeper's idea of giving Ken some company had seemingly backfired. So they cut their losses and moved Ken into his own enclosure. So there he was, alone.
Nice, Andrea.
Now let's have a think, shall we? Last time Ken was alone, what did he do? That's right, baby. He started planning his next escape. So on the 13th of June, 1985, a 14-year-old Ken Allen managed to climb up the wall of his enclosure and got out. Now, what exactly did Ken do after his valiant escape? Well, he very confidently just strolled around the zoo amongst visitors, minding his own business, observing the other animals. Ooh, look at the elephants. Wow, look at that giraffe. He wasn't aggressive or agitated. In fact, Ken loved the attention. Well, this escapade went on until the zookeepers were made aware of Ken's escape. Now, they knew that if Ken was to attack anybody, they would be forced to put him down.
Because of his strength, because he is a wild animal, the potential is there to do harm, to hurt somebody badly.
So slightly panicked, they hesitantly approached.
Something tells me a raincoat and a cat were not gonna keep people from recognizing a fucking orangutan walking around. My guess is they probably thought, oh, this is some part of, this is like the, this is, He was 14 years old at this time, so this was like, what, mid-80s. I would not be at all surprised if people thought that this was some kind of, like, event or a prank or something. And that's why nobody, like, was freaking out why a fucking orangutan was just wandering around amongst the public. They probably thought it legitimately was just, like, part of the show or just an attraction at the zoo.
Ken, but he caused no trouble at all, and then they quickly led him back to his enclosure, which he happily complied with. Now, whilst Ken Allen was chilled, enjoying his days spent roaming the zoo, the same couldn't be said for the zoo's staff. They were having
Because somebody's fired.
They knew if news of Ken Allen's escape went public, they would have a PR disaster on their hands. But of course, they had no control over the news leaking. I mean, there was an orangutan walking amongst members of the public. That does turn heads. So as the news broke, the staff at the San Diego Zoo prepared for the worst. But rather than the expected PR disaster, Ken Allen became somewhat of a local hero, and it actually worked in the zoo's favour. With everyone reading the news about Ken, people just had to see for themselves, and the zoo attendance skyrocketed. Or despite the...
Not surprising. Think about it. This is still true today. If something batshit crazy happens, and this wouldn't even classify as batshit crazy, but if something kooky or wonky or nutty happens, what's the first response from people? Holy shit, I gotta go check this out. Like, that is true even today. If something crazy happens, I want to go check this out. This thing did this thing, or this animal did this thing, or this person did this thing, and it's newsworthy, first response is, I gotta check it out. And so, yeah, this will... But Dragon's satisfaction brought her back. Don't forget about that. I know, Arctic. Arctic. I know. We let those cook.
The media buzz, behind the scenes, San Diego Zoo were doing all they could to prevent another escape. Sure, the attention was great, but one instance of an escaped ape was enough for them. Zoo officials decided they needed to step up security of Ken's pen, so they installed a moat around the perimeter of his enclosure and installed a 250-foot wall. This was bound to stop Ken in his tracks, and thankfully...
Oh, but Dragon, that's when I'm so good. Don't you know that? And by the way, did anyone, I wonder if anyone posed the question of, hey, could she possibly be worked with to, basically meet visitors of the zoo? He was like chill as hell wandering around. Like, I'm wondering if it was proposed that he could be some kind of, like, literal ambassador to, like, meet the public. Yeah, and I was gonna say, it is risky. It would be very risky, but I don't know if there would be, like, a handling expert, like, someone that could work with him. Maybe. I don't know. I am probably thinking crazy here because yes, it is an orangutan and he is freakishly strong. But I don't know. I'm trying to do a little outside the box thinking, and I'm probably going way too far outside the box.
It worked. Crisis averted. The security measures successfully contained Ken
I think
Allen.
It's the chimps that tend to rip faces off, Menace.
Because on the 29th of July, 1985, Ken managed to escape again. He somehow made his way over the moat, and just like his last escape, the 250-pound orangutan effortlessly scaled his enclosure wall. And yet again, he did the same, just casually strolling around the zoo amongst visitors, even posing for selfies. But this time, there was one more thing Ken wanted to do on his day trip. So as the zookeepers were once again made aware of Ken's escape, they frantically ran out to the zoo for a second time to capture Ken. And there they found him, stood over an enclosure. But this time, he wasn't looking at the pretty elephants. There Ken was, picking up rocks and pelting them at none other than Otis,
Otis.
Ken's ex-roommate and sworn enemy. Well, the second escape had only escalated the media hype around
Was that a real photo?
and sworn enemy. Well, this second escape
No, that's okay. It's photoshopped. Okay.
had only escalated the media hype around Ken. The already packed San Diego Zoo had more and more visitors each day, all eager to see Ken Allen.
Yeah, no kidding,
That
Alex.
could not be contained. But yet again, as for the staff at San Diego Zoo, whilst thankful for the increase in ticket sales, they simply could not let this happen again. 2 escapes
Did he,
was
Robo?
already far too many. Things were really getting silly now. Every effort the zookeepers had applied to try and halt Ken's escapes was failing. They needed to really step things up this time around. So for the time being, they moved Ken into an
Plan Z? Zombies? Don't set don't stick zombies on Ken. He's a good boy. Ken's a good boy. No zombies. No Plan Z. No zombies.
indoor pen that reportedly had a black and white television that featured just one channel. So as Ken sat and watched TV, the staff started...
Menace, I am not sure. The ones I do know about are chimpanzees. Chimpanzees do take a smile as a threat. I am not sure if any other simian perceive a smile as a threat. My guess is possibly because they all share that same genus. The thing is I mean, probably a lot of people were smiling at Ken, and Ken did not take it as a threat, so... True, Elwood, that's true. It's if you bare your teeth. So if you have a closed-mouth smile, you'll probably be okay.
So for the time being, they moved Ken into an indoor pen that reportedly had a black and white television that featured just one channel. So as Ken sat and watched TV, the staff started to draft a plan to further beef up Ken's main enclosure and increase security, fortify the place properly. So as the staff gathered around and started pitching
what did they
ideas,
put in it?
meanwhile, outside of Zoo
Whoa,
grounds,
whoa, whoa, whoa. First and foremost, did they
properly. So as the staff gathered
like fucking
and
poison him?
increase security, fortify the place properly. So as the staff gathered around
Okay.
and started pitching
Idea? My fucking god. Ray gun, maybe. Lasers, no. Spikes, no. Poison darts, absolutely not. Guns, I see no. Nope, not happening. Not gonna do it here. This is by itself with no decline.
ideas. Meanwhile, outside of zoo grounds, after the media had caught wind of the second escape, things had gotten bonkers. Ken Allen had become somewhat of an icon. Free Ken Allen t-shirts started popping up all over the
No
place.
way.
$14 a pop. Bumper stickers appearing on cars all over San Diego. A group of pensioners formed a Ken Allen fan club aptly
Oh
named
my god,
the
are you
Orang
serious?
Gang, complete with a monthly newsletter. And maybe the strangest outcome of Ken's fame, a San Diego-based psychiatrist named Dennis Gersten released a single, The Ballad of Ken Allen.
It's
Yeah, shit was getting...
oh my god. This is getting nuts. The fact that somebody released a single. And this exists. I bet if you Google it right... Chat? See if you can find it. If you can find it, it's probably on YouTube. If you can find it, post it in the videos in Discord. If you can find this single, post it in the Discord.
weird. Headlines started referring to Ken Allen as Hairy Houdini, a name that fit him perfectly. So back at the zoo, with all eyes on them, the staff started their efforts to beef up Ken's main enclosure once and for all. So with the master plan finished, they started by surrounding the wall with a powerful electric fence. Then they hired a pair of professional rock climbers to try and scale the enclosure wall so staff could seek out the foot and handholds and patch over them, making a chance of a route to the top virtually impossible.
Making the walls smoother, straight up and down, taking all the little bumps and ridges out of the wall that he could possibly get a handhold on.
Also, the key
Chat, are we forgetting about something? Or are the zookeepers forgetting about something? What did Ken do in his first enclosure? The first time he went into an enclosure, what did he do? Do you remember? What did he fashion in his first enclosure? Yes. No, after the cage. When it not the cage. When he was in the open air enclosure, he created a ladder. He figured out how to fashion a ladder. Uh-huh. I bet the zookeepers forgot about that.
Keepers had noted that Ken would only really ever attempt to escape when he was in an enclosure alone. And of course, when they attempted to put him in an enclosure with other orangutans, the only real issue was the fact that there was another male, Otis. So, zookeepers decided that the best course of action would be to introduce some female orangutans into the upgraded enclosure, and no other males, in the hopes that the company might calm him down. So with the big security renovations finally complete,
Here we
they decided
go.
it was time to free Ken from his indoor prison. He'd watched enough black and white TV, and they released him into the newly upgraded enclosure. But that wasn't all the staff had up their sleeve. This time, they decided it was best that they monitored Ken. See what he got up to, learn his habits, see if he was acting fishy. But this is Ken Allen we're talking about. This is one smart orangutan.
No. You say his name with authority. This is Ken motherfucking Allen, bitch. You put some respect on that name of his.
He knew that when he saw humans dressed in zoo uniform, he couldn't act out or pull any wise moves, as he knew they were watching. But this time, the staff were one step ahead of Ken. So to get round this, they would disguise themselves in normal, casual clothing, blue jeans, Hawaiian shirts, sunglasses, as if they were just regular old bystanders visiting
Sneaky.
the zoo. That way, they could watch Ken and he'd
This
have
is a
no
full-on
idea
fucking
they were
FBI
members
operation
of
now.
staff. A tactic that the zoo coined guerrilla tactics. Okay,
Oh, for
one gold
God's
star
sake.
for that one, San Diego Zoo. I'll give it to you. So how did it all go? Well, their plan worked. Ken didn't try to escape. So there Ken was, busy not escaping, relaxing, sitting around. Oh, he has a crowbar. It seemed that Ken had discovered the tool when it had been seemingly left behind by a construction worker. Not particularly wanting to approach a crowbar wielding orangutan, the zookeepers watched over helplessly. But to their relief, Ken threw it aside, landing at the feet of fellow orangutan, Vicky. Now, knowing she was far calmer than Ken, the keepers weren't too worried about her. Until, that is, they heard a large crunch and Vicky had used the crowbar to try and pry open the glass of the enclosure window in an attempt to free herself and Ken. That's right, Ken had seemingly upped his intelligence level and was training other orangutans to aid.
What did I say? What did I say? You fools! You just gave him an army! Oh, this is too good! This is too fucking good!
Him in his escapes.
Pretty clever, as if they learned from the master himself.
There must be some kind of orangutan communication going on here.
Thankfully, for zoo staff, this time around, they caught Ken and Vicky almost instantly before they made it out to the public and then re-secured the window. So after making sure all the loose tools were secure and feeding the construction worker to the alligators, it seemed that Ken, for the most part, was behaving himself. They did catch him one time, managing to scale the wall, despite the rock climber's best efforts, but when he eventually reached the electric fence, he lightly brushed it, got quite the zap, and quickly made his way back down. The San Diego Zoo had out.
Okay. Not surprising. Then he was able to scale the wall, because even the best rock climbers have fuck all when it comes to the capabilities of what a simian can do. Apes, chimpanzees, orangutans, gorilla, yeah, their grip strength and flexibility is insane. Plus, humans only grip with their hands. Exactly, Mike, that's where I was going. Monkeys grip with their hands and their feet. So having the best I had a feeling that having the best rock climbers try to get up the wall was not going to do fuck all.
Finally, all the work the staff had put in had seemingly worked to keep Ken Allen at bay. Ken started to settle down, and the media started to report that he'd become somewhat of a family man, and it looked as if his escapes had finally been put to rest. But it seemed that Ken was simply buying his time, because 2 years later,
No.
the pump that fueled the moat around Ken's enclosure had conveniently clogged, drying up the moat completely, and this allowed for a clear and easy path to the wall.
Uh-oh.
Ken then sat patiently and waited for the moment that the power to the electric fence was shut off for maintenance. How he knew this is still a mystery, but with the timing being perfect, he capitalized.
I bet I know. I bet I know how he knew the electricity was shut off, because an animal's senses are keener than a human senses. Even though simians are very closely related to humans, their senses are much keener. So my guess is he either heard it shut off. Yeah, I'm thinking he either heard it shut off, or even possibly, if depending upon scent, maybe he could smell the ozone in the air when the fence was activated. So maybe he could smell when it shut off. So either heard the telltale sign of the electricity being turned off, or could smell the lack of ozone when it turned off. I'm thinking it's either or. It's honestly not that surprising that he would have. Exactly, yeah. Oh, exactly. They give a buzz, so he probably throwing a rock wouldn't do anything. Throwing a rock in an electric, this is not the movies. If you throw a rock in an electric fence, fuck all is gonna happen. Okay? A rock is not conductive, so a rock is just gonna bounce off the fence, and it's not gonna create a spark or anything like that. Same thing with the branch. That's why the thing in Jurassic Park where Ellen Grant throws a branch at the electric fence to see if it's turned off is bullshit. You would need to actually throw some kind of conductive material, like metal, in order to cause a spark on something like an electric fence. More than likely, he heard it. He heard that telltale buzz of the electric fence go away and went, okay, it stopped.
Making a bolt for it, and once again, after his 2-year hiatus, he'd come out of retirement, and it was like he'd never stopped. Back to his old ways, he strolled around the zoo, taking photo after photo, everybody raving that they had seen Ken Allen, Harry Houdini, the ape that could not be contained. But this time around, when he saw the guards approaching in the distance, Ken wasn't as calm as he was during his other escapes. He made a bolt for the lion enclosure, dodging and weaving, making the most of his freedom, crowds cheering as he sprinted. He was really pushing the boat out this time. This was the furthest away Ken had ever been.
Reverend, that's why I was saying, maybe they could have done something with this, because he clearly enjoyed the attention he got. He liked the mingling. I'm surprised they didn't try, especially in the 80s, I'm surprised they didn't try and work with that somehow. But they did.
Through his enclosure. Fearing that Ken was going to climb into the lion enclosure and be their next meal, staff were hot on his heels, and after 3 long hours, he was eventually cornered by gun-wielding zookeepers and led back to his enclosure. Luckily, the zookeepers knew that the only reason the escape was possible was due to the moat drying up and the power shutting off, and once repaired, the fortifications that had worked for 2 years would still be up to scratch. But while secure, what the keepers had underestimated once more was the fact that Ken had roommates. Things have been going great, but we all know how things go when you surround Ken with female orangutans. Ken isn't exactly the best influence on the ladies, but it wasn't Ken this time. One day before the zoo opening time, Jane and Kumang had found a 5-foot long handled squeegee that a cleaner had accidentally left in the enclosure, and inspired by Ken, the two somehow used it to climb up the wall and hop out. Jane apparently wandered into an employee-only lounge area, finished off some of their sodas, and was found roaming around near the flamingos, where she had to be tranquilized and returned to her enclosure.
Good question, Atanashi.
Kumang willingly returned. But while she was the tamer ape this time around, it seems that Kumang wanted her own chapter in the adventure book.
Oh my
She managed
god.
to escape 2 additional times by shortening the electric fence wires with a twig. The first time, she was found sat playing in a garden bed where she was tranquilized. Then the second time, she was sat outside the monkey enclosure, and when approached by staff, she climbed on top of the bird sanctuary where she was tranquilized again. In fact, Kumang's Mischief actually got the group put in solitary confinement once more, whilst the keepers made the wiring system more complex, upgraded the doors, and went around with an electromagnet to make sure there was nothing they could use to aid an escape. So even though Ken was in retirement, he was still seemingly costing.
Like, some of this is on them for leaving all this shit in the enclosures. Like, stop it. Stop it. Yeah, some of this is on the zookeepers, leaving shit in the enclosures when they know they have escape artist orangutans on their hands. They should have been doing a check every time they go in and do the enclosure. Like, okay, a check of what we got when we go in, a check of what we got when we leave. So that's on them. And orangutan's gonna do what orangutan's gonna do.
The zoo money through his students. At this point, the zoo had reportedly spent a whopping $45,000 on security over the course of the escapes. As for Ken himself, as years passed, it seems that the escapes at San Diego Zoo really had finally come to an end this time. Ken was living a simpler life in his enclosure, sat relaxing, eating, and flipping off children that walked by. Ken settled down.
Maintenance was unscheduled. All he needed to do was know what day it would be.
Well, no, Jerome, I realize that. What I'm saying is that the maintenance guys, knowing who they were dealing with, should have done equipment check prior to walking in, go in and do their maintenance, equipment check when they leave, to make sure that they didn't leave anything behind. That's what I'm saying. It's the fact that it wasn't scheduled is what I'm talking about. They just, motherfuckers needed to check themselves, that's all.
For years to come, he had finally decided to behave himself and stayed put in his enclosure. He had truly given up on his old ways.
He's getting old!
2000, the zookeepers noticed that Ken was acting out of the ordinary. He was moving erratically and seemed uncomfortable, so the staff sent him in for a visit with the zoo doctor. Ken was diagnosed with B-cell lymphoma, a form of blood cancer. Now, at first, doctors weren't too worried, as Ken was still young and fit and would most likely be able to fight off the disease. But sadly, as time went on, Ken's condition deteriorated and the cancer had become more aggressive. The cancer that was now terminal. So the zookeepers decided that rather than letting Ken suffer at the age of 29, on December 1st, 2000, Ken Allen was euthanized.
Options for chemotherapy were explored, but at this time, the therapy was mainly geared towards making Kenny as comfortable as possible.
His condition had worsened over the last several days. Ken brought great joy to the San Diego Zoo for over 29 years. The loss of this type of animal is a great loss to our organization. This is a sad day at the San Diego Zoo.
Oh my god!
At 11:05 today, Ken Allen was put down.
The orangutan published a 2-page spread.
Oh no! Oh, Ken. Oh, poor Ken. It's so sad. I don't know why I just suddenly burst out crying like that, but oh my gosh, it's so sad. Oh god. Oh.
As a tribute to Ken and hosted a candlelit vigil for him, stating he would have done the same for us. To this day, a plaque sits in San Diego Zoo in Ken Allen's honour. So there you go. The story of Ken Allen's numerous escapes from the San Diego Zoo. $45,000, t-shirts, bumper stickers, a fan club, a single, and a hell of a tale. I've made sure to link to the main sources that help to tell this story below if you want to read into it some more. And shout out to Count Dankula, who covered this story a while back with a hilarious retelling in his Absolute Mad Lad series, which actually led me to make this video and get Ken's story out there to more people. He also mentions in that video, made 4 years ago now, that orangutans are indeed an endangered species.
Orangutans are very smart and very gentle-natured creatures, but the World Wildlife Fund has classed them as critically endangered.
And who would have guessed? 4 years later, nothing has changed. The steep decline in the number of orangutans in the wild means they are indeed still an endangered species, with an estimated total of around 50,000 to 65,000 remaining in the wild. 2,000 to 3,000 orangutans are killed every year. And if it continues at that rate, some experts predict that within 50 years, there will be no orangutans left in the wild. So I've made sure to include a few links below to some charities. The Orangutan Project, where you can adopt an orangutan. The Orangutan Foundation, that do great work at protecting the tropical habitats that many wild orangutans call home. And orangutan.com, which is an all-round great resource to see what you can do to help, as well as the numerous charities helping to save orangutans from extinction. I've made a personal donation myself, and if you have any spare money left around, why not go and give it to some of these charities? I'd like to dedicate this video to Ken Allen. Good on you, mate. And to all of you that have made it this far in the video, thank you ever so much. And of course, thanks to War Thunder for sponsoring the video and making it all possible. You can give it a try for free on PC, PlayStation or Xbox by using the link in the description or in the pinned comment. New and returning players that haven't played in 6 months will receive that big bonus pack mentioned earlier in the video, featuring premium vehicles and much more across all platforms. And it's all only available for a limited time only, so get it while you can. And with all of that said,
you know it, Leo.
Goodbye.
Recognize him. We watched his video about the ATM glitch in Australia. We watched his video on the ATM glitch. Oh yes, Neo. Yes, indeed I am. Okay, hang on. Oh god. That was funny, but it ended so heartbreakingly. Oh my god, that made me cry at the end. I was not expecting this to make me cry. And I cried.